Hello and welcome to season 3 of my online show. And we're talking all about embodied sacred love and how you can navigate the emotional realm in your ascension journeys and in your relationships. So this is one of the big questions that I get asked a lot in my private practice. It's about past lives and karmic patterns when it comes to relationships. And this being the multi-dimensional love summit, we get to explore these types of questions, which is really cool. So what is truly ours and what is bleed through coming in from unresolved karmic residue or past lives, other relationships in our quantum lives? And even if we discover that the relationship pattern is past life related, do we still need to continue this pattern in our present lives? So what, if anything, can be done for the pattern to be released or healed? So these are the types of questions that we're going to be exploring in today's interview, as I'm joined by a wonderful and highly experienced Akashic Records teacher, Lisa Barnett, who is internationally recognized, best-selling author of The Infinite Wisdom of the Akashic Records, and From Questioning to Knowing, 73 Prayers to Transform Your Life. And Lisa's also the founder of Akashic Knowing School of Wisdom, where she teaches students all around the world to access their own personal soul wisdom and Akashic guidance to support them in their life. Really, really cool. Lisa, you have a phenomenal job. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ariella. It's lovely to be here and to get to share this kind of interesting concept, this multi-dimensional love. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I love talking about it too. So let's dive straight in down the quantum rabbit hole of multi-dimensional love. What can you tell us that you have found out? Obviously, you've looked in many people's records now. So what can you tell us about these karmic patterns, particularly in relationships, and what's your stand in terms of whether they can be healed?
Well, what I have found, and I think it's probably easiest to backtrack just a little bit so that we're all on the same page, but before we embody each lifetime, we write a soul plan. And in that soul's plan, we write contracts with other souls to spend time with them. And there is the interesting piece that comes in, because some of these soul contracts are really very purely about support, which can be a perfect contract for a significant partner because they're here to support you and you're here to support them. And those, I would say, are probably something like the easiest relationships as a rule. And then we often have these soul contracts that have karma attached. And that is kind of what we're more specifically talking about, because what happens is karma to me is just an incomplete story. It's an unfinished lesson or unfinished pattern. So if you imagine that in a past life, your loved one died in an accident and you didn't get to fulfill that, that love, you didn't get to have a long life together, that's actually an incomplete, which creates this kind of karmic pattern. Now, so we may say, we have to come back together and try this again, right? So we can have something like that in there. But the other sticky part about love and karmic patterns is that often we'll have relationships that, I'm going to say, didn't go so well. Maybe in that life, I wasn't a very nice person. I might have been a bit of a shrew. And so my partner, my husband, maybe drank a little bit too much in order to avoid me or blot me out, right? Mm-hmm. So here you're creating another karmic pattern, because what's happening is, even though you may have stayed in that relationship for years and years until you both died, you have left you kind of left the building. You've really jumped out of that story through becoming an alcoholic.
Yes.
So it's again incomplete. So here's another karmic pattern that wants to be finished in some way or other. So whether it's with the same two souls, or whether you end up choosing another soul to work through that with. So these patterns, yes, I totally believe they can be healed and cleared. And I think one of the easiest ways is to understand them. Right? So if someone comes to me as a client and they say, I have this kind of unhappy marriage, one of the things that I always will ask in their Akashic records is, do they even have a soul contract with this person? Because the interesting thing is that we don't have to have a soul contract to marry someone or be in relationship with them. Oh, we have free will, right? So free will can be very, very useful, and it can kind of muck things up also. Right? So if you choose, right, and this is, like my own personal story. When I was 30 years old, I moved from Chicago back to California, and I had been engaged in Chicago, but I broke up with this guy, moved back to California. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm 30 years old. The clock is ticking. I have to get married.
Yeah.
And
the dreaded 30 for women. Yeah.
Right. So at 60 plus, I really am laughing at that, because I'm like, what was I thinking? Right. But I got married. It wasn't, it's an interesting thing, because it wasn't a strong soul contract that I had with the guy, but it was very much about me stepping into my power. Right. So it turns out that I married a guy who was about 15 years older than me, and he had a drinking problem. Yeah. And so after about 2 years, I realized I could not save him, and I divorced him. And I literally said, I love you, you're a sweetheart, but I can't fix you. You have to work through this yourself. And so it gave me the ability to get really clear on the fact that I was not here to fix or save everyone. And it let me step into my power as I walked away and became a much more sovereign, independent person. So even though it wasn't a contract per se, it was karma that I had to learn, right? So it's very complicated,
Yeah, it can be. It can be a number of things, but that's the great thing about the Akashic Records, right? You can pinpoint this stuff. Maybe just for the viewers, I'm sure most of them know, but can you just quickly explain what are the Akashic Records?
Oh, absolutely. So the Akashic Record is the recording of your soul's journey throughout time. So you could say that from the moment you individuated from source and became an individuated soul and you went on a journey. We go to travel in different planes and dimensions. We spend 600, 800 lives here on Earth alone. Of course, we actually are very galactic. Many of us are star seeds, so we could say we've lived on other planets or planes also. And every lifetime, whether it was here on Earth or somewhere else, is actually recorded in this etheric field of the Akasha. So you have your very own personal library of your soul's journey. And really the great blessing is that you also have Akashic record keepers, which are these beautiful, pure, divine beings of light that are here to serve and support you. They keep your records. This is who I speak to and who I teach my students to speak to. So we can actually move into this divine field of energy and have a conversation with these Akashic beings of light. So you can ask very specific questions, like I said about that ex-husband,
Yeah.
Did I have a soul contract with him? And they literally explained to me, no, but you had some karma to finish, and you had some power that was kind of lost to you, or alignment that was, misaligned. And so we choose all sorts of different ways to learn and grow as a soul. because that's our basic reason for coming to Earth, is to learn and grow as a soul.
I find the Akashic Records absolutely just so fascinating, and I know that I'm sure many of our viewers do, and probably some of the questions that are going through their minds is, well, can anybody access them? What is your view on that?
Yes, I would say yes, because it's your record of your soul. So just as I would say, we all have numerous gifts and talents. We all have some variety of clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, right? We have these other skills and abilities, and for most of us, it's just focusing on them, learning to access them, and start to fine-tune them so we can open to receive more information. So I was given a 5-step wisdom prayer system by the Akashic Record Keepers when they asked me to start my school. So they speak very clearly and directly to me, like, start a school. And I'm like, really? Wow. Yes, we'll give you the tools, right? I'm like, okay, then, sure. That's awesome. And I just kind of listen and do what they ask, and it has worked out very, very well. So they've given me a very clear, almost linear 5-step wisdom prayer system, so I can really easily teach people using a vibrational key in the form of a sacred prayer to really open this energy so we can connect with real great ease and grace into the Akashic field, to talk to our Akashic Record Keepers. And so, so I've been tremendously successful. There's always that 1% or 5% who just isn't ready or doesn't get it, or maybe they need to do some more work around clearing some of their own trauma and blocks to make it easier to access the records. But the record keepers say that it's our birthright to have this access.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I just think that's what a gift. What a gift. So in terms of relationships, so you've spoken a little bit about like soul contracts. What else could be going on that could be interfering or causing limitations in people's enjoyment within their relationships?
Well, that's a great question, because sometimes, and this is something I think people don't think about or realize very often, is that we sometimes write soul contracts for a very specific reason and then they end. So we sometimes write a soul contract to have a child with a specific person, and that's it. It's kind of the, I have this contract with, the baby daddy for 2 years, and then it's over. So after 2 years, nothing is working anymore. Now, that does not mean that we can't very consciously change our attitudes, change our beliefs, work with that person to connect deeper heart to heart. So I've been given quite a few different healing tools, and I'd love to get to one today, but that we can use to connect it, to create a deeper connection with a person.
Oh, great.
But sometimes it really literally is that contract is complete. And, I have clients come to me, they may be, I've been married for, 23 years. And, it's kind of like we don't not get along, but we don't really get along. It doesn't seem like we're on the same path. Are we supposed to stay married? What's the story? And so I can actually ask in the Akashic Records questions like, was there even a soul contract with this person? And I find there usually is, especially if you've managed to stay married for, over 10 or 15 years. And is this contract still viable? Is it complete? Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes we just need to clean it up and bring it into present time so that you can see each other now, not as the 20-year-olds who are having a new baby. You can see each other now as the 40-year-olds who are going on into another, area of their lives, right? Into another another place and space in life.
So you
So,
can shift the dynamic by the sound of it. You can shift
yes,
the dynamic in the Akashic Records. That's awesome.
yes, yes. Yeah, so you can update like a contract. So the other really fascinating thing about that is that it's very useful to do that kind of work with your family members. So I'll often have clients or students who will say, you know, it's November, I'm going home to be with the family for the holidays. My mother always treats me like a, 5-year-old. What can I do, right?
Yeah.
And literally, we can update those contracts. So it's like, because we can travel outside of time and space in the Akashic Records, I can go back and heal a lot of the energy or the pain or the trauma that might have been in that relationship with your mother through your childhood. So we can actually go back and clear up some of the emotional pain, the trauma that we've experienced as a child. And then we really bring that contract into this present moment so they can see you as the adult that you are.
That is just so awesome, isn't it? I mean, that just is like next level relationship counseling.
Yeah, right. So this is the thing with the Akashic Records, why I am so so excited and enthralled with the work, even though I've been doing it now for a very long time, over 20 years. I say that this is something that I believe can serve everyone in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Right? By upgrading your contracts, by working on your soul purpose, your passions, your gifts and talents that you have, so that there is so much information in your Akashic Records. It's never boring.
So the question that is coming to mind is about, like, when is it appropriate to change contracts and when might not be appropriate, and what are those boundaries?
Well, what I really just go with is when I open the records of, myself, a client, and we ask, is this contract like still relevant? Is this still viable? Are there still lessons to be learned? Is there healing or clearing we can do? Right? Is there still karma that we've come to complete? Because if we leave a contract with incomplete karma, that means that you're going to find it somewhere else.
Yes.
Right? People who come and say, I have this pattern. Every relationship I get into, they start out really nice, and then, whatever the then is.
Yeah, that's common.
That's because you have some karma to work through, to learn about, to understand. You have blocks that are holding you from seeing a bigger picture of yourself. And I would also tend to say that an important piece of any relationship is our own self-love, right? Is to be able to come into that place where we can forgive ourselves for all the trespasses. We can forgive ourselves for not always being nice. We can forgive whatever it was we've done in the past and move forward from now.
Yes.
We talk very often about living in this present moment, and it is so important in every area of our lives, including relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So when we hold on to the fact that our spouse may have not always been so nice, or maybe they hurt us in the past, or maybe they even had an affair, but they are really sorry and they really want to be together and they really want to go forward. If we keep dredging up that old crap and throwing it in their face, you're never going to move forward, right? That relationship will not be healed unless you can forgive them and forgive yourself for whatever it was that created that in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So forgiveness is a huge way to actually heal karma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the record keepers have given us a very beautiful forgiveness prayer that they suggest we do every day.
They say to say every day.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Because, I would venture to say, when do you not say something not so nice to yourself? Right? I mean, most of us look in the mirror and we say, ugh, I look old, I look fat, I look tired, that outfit is stupid. Why am I, whatever it is, I can't believe I didn't do that, or I said that, or whatever, right? So we're really hardest on ourselves.
Absolutely.
And not to mention all of those levels of karma that could be past life, could be childhood, where it's really important for us to forgive other people for the way they've treated us. And when we can start to realize that we are all beautiful, divine light. No matter how we show up in the world, no matter what we say or what we do, even the worst kind of abuse comes very much from often contracts to heal the world. And so when we can forgive other people, we are helping ourselves to heal our karma. And this really goes forward and makes your life so much easier.
It's so true. I love that. And yeah, you can't set your own soul free if you are binding somebody else's soul, right? Through judgment or blame or whatever it is. It's it's a really liberating process.
Yeah. And honestly, the Akashic Record Keepers say to me, they say that, forgiveness heals karma. And as we do this, what we're really doing is we're opening our hearts. We're moving into a place of unconditional love, which also includes, self-love. And forgiveness really helps us to awaken. So the path of enlightenment is really through unconditional love, compassion, forgiveness, really into enlightenment. So it's all very related in so many ways.
And what results have you seen with your clients? Can you think of, do any come to mind in terms of relationships when you've done any work in the Akashic Record?
Yeah, I do a fair amount of relationship work, and I really love it because I see very often when people can understand the soul contract they have with someone, and they can open, kind of when we can get our head in line with our heart, then it's much easier to do that kind of forgiveness work, or just to say, oh, aha, I get it. That this is about an old karmic pattern we've had maybe through a few different lifetimes. And I actually will go back and heal that pain and trauma from each of the lifetimes so we can bring that kind of healed, clear energy into present time. And so they can feel more love. They can feel, less hurt or less anger. And that allows them to transform their relationship in this time. I worked with a woman once, and she was so hurt because she realized that her husband had been not even having an affair because he fell in love with someone else, but he was actually going to prostitutes. And so it was so demoralizing to her, so traumatizing to her. We really worked together for probably 6 months, quite a bit, because she was in so much pain, and she had 2 small children and didn't know what to do. And really, the record keeper said that it was very much about healing old karma. They had come to complete this karma. And it was actually fascinating because when he did this, it's almost like, this big piece of karma that he had to finish. He literally started drinking, kind of became an alcoholic in order to live out his side of karma. So he started to drink. He was traveling and out of town all the time. So he'd get drunk, call up a prostitute, kind of thing. And the minute she caught him, it was like he came so clearly back into his body that he quit drinking, kind of no problem, was, really, just became like the great husband that she had always wanted. And, it's a process, right? And her forgiveness, he was great. It took her a little bit longer to forgive and then to go through. She had karmic patterns from her childhood, from her father not being seen, past lives of, all of this sort of thing. So what happens is that for some of us, we can pull a string and fix something in a short amount of time, maybe in 1, 2, 3 sessions. But for many of us, we are here right now in this time in history to complete all of our karma. So it's complicated. And that's why I love to teach people to work in their own records so they can continually keep working through these karmic patterns, these old relationship patterns. Or of course you can work with me for 6 months or a year or, 2 months or whatever it is for you. But I find that when we can do this for ourselves, it's also a phenomenal empowerment tool to have. Mm-hmm. So I've seen people be able to change their lives. I've seen people, like I was talking about relationship, and maybe we could even do this right now. I've had clients and students, when I've taught them this very simple tool, go home and for the holidays, and they come back and they were like, that's the best holiday ever. It's like my family could see me for who I am now instead of, that 5-year-old or that 10-year-old or that snarly teenager that I used to be, right? And so, yes, I've seen, and also what I find very often is that people are looking for the validation that it really is sometimes okay to leave a relationship. Is this contract complete? Or am I going to create more karma for myself? And when the record keepers say it's complete, it was actually complete 10 years ago, wow. It's time for you to move on with your life and to do some other things. And there's actually some higher vibrational relationships for you out there. Wow. So we can look at it that way. It gives them a little bit more of that impetus. Yeah, very liberating. You can go, okay, now I'm, I'm ready. Because sometimes people are afraid that they're going to, create more havoc in their lives through a divorce, and not to say that it's painless or simple, but at least when they know that this is the highest avenue for their soul, it makes it much easier.